What's going on, everyone? James Hancock here, back with a review of episode 4 of season 3 of True Detective, an episode called The Hour and the Day. Now, I don't want to let myself get carried away, but right now, I think this is the strongest episode all season and a sign of really good things to come. While I don't know if the show will ever be able to regain the heights of what folks want in their imagination, personally, I'd love to see more connectivity to the supernatural horror of the Yellow King. But behind the camera, this episode featured 2 tweaks that I think made a huge difference. For this episode, series director Nick Pizzolatto stepped into the role of director, and while I might have been skeptical a few episodes ago, he made me a true believer. The pacing, the humor, the tension, the action, everything about this episode just felt a little tighter. He's also back in the director's chair for the next episode as well, but the masterstroke of this episode was Pizzolatto's decision to share writing duties with David Milch. David Milch is almost 74 years old at this point, but clearly he hasn't lost a single step creatively. He created the show Deadwood back in 2004, and it rapidly became one of my all-time favorite shows. Admittedly, I have a soft spot for Westerns. I absolutely love that genre, but the characters and more importantly, the dialogue featured in Deadwood, they just crackled with this vitality and profanity and aggression. I mean, I could go on and on about Deadwood, and I'm thrilled to see that Milch is back as a writer on the TV movie later this spring. But getting back to tonight's episode, you can feel Milch's fingerprints all over the script. The script, it was just funnier and it was dirtier than any other episode this season, and that's no coincidence. I have no idea what kind of process Pizzolatto and Milch used in order to co-write the episode, but they appear to have brought out the best in each other. So we're already at the halfway point of this season, and the show is picking up some serious momentum. We had some major revelations in all 3 different eras, as well as some fantastic character beats. One of the big developments in 1980 is learning that Julie spoke repeatedly about an aunt, in spite of not having one, and that a black man with a dead eye with film over it bought the dolls that had been linked so closely to the murder of Will. And it's a murder that Hayes now suspects was due to Will trying to protect his sister, in that Julie's abductor presumably was only interested in grabbing her. And this lead brings Hayes and Roland to the front door of a black man named Sam who lives in a trailer park, and Sam assumes that he's about to get shot and makes a big commotion. When he asks Hayes how he can wear that badge, Hayes simply tells him it has a clip. In any case, apparently there are loads of people in the area missing fingers and eyes from all the dangerous hands-on work in the area. But jumping ahead to 1990, we see Hayes is initially excited about being part of this special investigation and getting back to work, but Amelia's not quite ready to let him off the hook from their fight the previous episode, and this leads to this incredibly tense scene that ended, much to my surprise, with Amelia dropping her panties to the floor. And in a line that must have been written by Milch, Hayes says, "You've got some major cognitive dissonance." And I love how the kids outside the room just grin at each other as they start hearing a bumping sound coming from the bedroom. So in 2015, Hayes asks his son if he can help him hunt down the whereabouts of some folks, including Roland, and Hayes is not even sure if Roland's still alive. And he keeps claiming not to be working the case again, but when he goes to see the filmmaker Elisa, or is it Eliza or Elisa, I'm not quite sure, but he agrees to give her some more information if she returns the favor. Because Hayes rightly suspects she's holding out on him, but she does reveal that Lucy's cousin went missing in 1990 and that his bones were found in a quarry. She knows more, but she's not quite willing to show all of her cards quite yet. But back in 1980, we get another great scene. Hayes and Roland are looking for someone in the local Catholic church that matches to the description they have, and we get this great dialogue where Roland comments, "Man, there's some serious ass up in here. Got to get back to church." But the funniest line all episode has to do with this scumbag prosecutor who by 1990, he's become the attorney general. But back in 1980, when Hayes is told that the prosecutor's talking about the investigation on Donahue, Hayes replies, "What the fuck is a Donahue?" Now, that joke might only be funny to people my age and older, but I absolutely started screaming when he said that. I don't know if enough can be said about just what a great job Mahershala Ali and Stephen Dorff are both doing. Their chemistry is incredible. They just sing the dialogue that's being written for them. But one of the most eerie moments all season comes when Amelia drops off some of Will's things with his mother Lucy, and they're getting along really well and they're bonding, and Lucy starts letting down her guard, and then she says she's done a terrible thing and starts begging God for forgiveness. But when Amelia suggests that Lucy talk to Hayes, Lucy completely freaks out, goes ballistic, throws her out. Now, I have no idea if Lucy basically gave away her little girl to some really rough people in exchange for drugs or what, but this plot line now officially has my full attention. And there's another eerie scene where Hayes in 2015, he's basically having this internal argument as he's haunted by the memories of all these Vietnamese soldiers that he killed in the war, but in the back of the pack of the soldiers, in the middle of them, was a white guy in a suit. And I didn't recognize him at first, but as Hayes continues to argue with himself, he debates whether or not to tell Roland about O'Brien. Now, I'm assuming he's talking about Dan O'Brien, Lucy's cousin, which makes me suspect that Hayes might have had something to do with the body ending up in the quarry, but I'm not 100% convinced. We'll need some more information on that front, but that was a major revelation. But it's just incredible how much plot they crammed into this episode. It was a little longer episode than the previous ones, but still, it's just incredible just how much was going on. Back in 1980, Hayes and Roland start the interrogation of 3 teenage boys, in particular Freddie, whose fingerprints were found on Will's bike. Freddie claims that all he did was chase Will away when Will came around looking for his sister. Hayes whips out his prison rape story again to scare Freddie, and we get this great moment where Roland asks Hayes if there's anything that he wants to confess or share with him, and Hayes kind of smirks his little evil smile, but once again, the chemistry between these two actors is absolutely making this season for me. And then the last big development we get on the Cases episode is back in 1990 when we see Hayes going through all the video footage from the drugstore, and he sees footage of somebody kind of hastily running down the aisle, and he's pretty much convinced that it is Julie. But rather than allow this episode to end on a slow burn, this episode gives us a really tense standoff. When the trash man spotted talking to 2 girls about recycling their cans, one of their dads notices from a distance, and all of a sudden you have 3 pickup trucks full of psychos chasing this guy back to his home. And the trash man, he immediately gets down to business. He pops off his shoes, goes running through the woods barefoot. He's leaving bloody footprints on the road as he gets back to his place and basically starts preparing his home for a siege. Now, I need to correct a suspicion of mine that turned out to be wrong from a previous video. I mentioned how his green bag looked like it might have had a body in it, specifically the body of a child, but as it turns out, the bag simply contains a shitload of guns. In any event, he sets up tripwires all over his home. He has an explosive facing his front door. I mean, he is ready. But outside, as this small army is preparing to invade, Hayes and Roland arrive just in time to try to defuse the situation. However, the most belligerent idiot in the group kicks in the front door right as the show cuts to credits. And as far as I'm concerned, that's how you end an episode in dramatic fashion. It was incredibly satisfying, and next Sunday night at 9 o'clock, there's no place I'd rather be than right in front of my TV to find out what happens. So I think that's all I have for now. Up till now, I've been kind of waiting to see if this show would truly deliver, and I think this episode was absolutely the perfect reward for patient viewers who've been sticking with it. I'm absolutely loving this season, and I'm very eager to see more. So thanks so much for watching my video. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking the video and giving my channel a subscribe. But if you want to talk about the show or anything else under the sun, you can find me on Twitter @Colbrax, and there's a link in the description below. But I can't thank you enough for watching my video. I really appreciate the support. But more importantly, as always, onwards and upwards.